background, in my cultural background, I have to respect teacher and then not evaluate it. So I think I never done that while I was in Korea, but when I came over here and then I went back to college, so I studied psychology, and then after every class, the end of the class, and when the teacher finished the lecture, and then he gave out was evaluation sheet, and then teacher left the room, and then we got a feel, and sometimes the detail, sometimes we have to mark scales there, and then, but I'm not sure. So usually, maybe because of my cultural background, I usually give them good evaluation, 4 or 5 out of their 5 scales. But some people I can see how they write a lot of stuff, and sometimes there's a C and there's a 3 and 2 and 1, and it's not believe, but I just pick others, right? And but was evaluating teachers, kind of people who are higher position and authority, it's not easy. It's not easy. What is the education evaluation? So here is the some aspect of how people are thinking about education evaluation, and then usually around the 70s and concerned, primarily with achievement for the specific norms and goals. Okay, there is our norms and what goal is there, and then they try to, we have achieved the goal or not. That is a kind of a primary concern. But another aspect is and emphasize the types of evaluation, which are qualitative, open-ended, and goal-free, and dedicate primarily to insightful description and judgment of educational realities. And then it's not a kind of scale, the qualitative or quantitative, and then quantitative is like evaluate with the numbers, right? Scales, and 1, 2, 3, 5. Qualitative is a little bit different, and you gotta do interviews and talk how they think about. And quantitative is already kind of sentence is already given, question is given, and they can scale how they feel. But qualitative, they can speak out. So always different. So a little bit different approach to evaluate education, though. So try to get insightful descriptions and judgment of educational reality. So even though we make a question a little bit wow for what we really want to know, but sometimes there is always a limitation. It's not perfect description questions. That is emphasized and so insightful description and judgment of educational reality through the qualitative evaluation. Another one is emphasize a pragmatic aspect of evaluation process. And how can you get your information, and then after that, and how can we analyze, and we have kind of judgmental process, assessment, and then making decision and action. They really emphasize the pragmatic aspect of the evaluations. But the text that we have, and there's and also rate goals, and insightful description, and the judgment of education reality is a qualitative, right? And this one is the first one is usually they use a quantitative. So question is there, and they scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this, and 10. But this one is really focused on the process, right? And the Razik and Swanson defined educational evaluation as well. Systematic collection and interpretation of evidence. Systematic collection means that it's not just a random, it's a random, but systematically. Means it's really, it's reliable. It's really measure what we really want to evaluate, like this. And interpretation of evidence leading to what? Judgment. So collecting, and there is data, and then what? We interpret the data. And the interpretation leading to what? Judgment. Of value with and the judgment, what? And then we make a decision, and that's followed by actions. When I see this kind of definition, and then kind of it's really not just I expose both in qualitative and quantitative, and then while I was studying psychology, I did research for my senior project, and then I researched, and they're based on the quantitative research. And then I used the four acculturation scale. I used the personality, Big Five personality scale. I used the stress indicator. I used 3 scales. I used it, and I tried to see how depends on the acculturation, relationship acculturation and stress coping skills, and then depends on how they respond with the people's personality. And then that was my research, and then that was a quantitative. So this question was a lot, and that's why I give out more than 100, and then I think I got collected bags like 50. And usually the evaluation is really serious, and how can we get objectively, and how can so it's too subjective, and then we cannot evaluate exactly, right? We cannot evaluate as a class, as programs and individuals. So nowadays, try to use a scientific process, like how to use this one, like collating data, and then when you write the kind of research paper, and then you gotta read about your interest, and then read. There's a lot of research, but then you can choose a topic, and then you can make a hypothesis, and then research data and collating the data, and make a hypothesis, and then maybe you make your questionnaires, and then you can use the other questionnaire already validated, and then so you can use it, and then distribute the questionnaire, and people can answer and collating the data, right? And questionnaires and analyze. Nowadays they use a software, and then I use a SSPI, and then there's the whole question is numbers, and there's you gotta set the variable, dependent variable, independent variable, and independent variable turns to the numbers as a dependent variable, so influence right? And independent variable, and then set, and then and you can put the number, and then click the button, and it comes out. So there is a evaluation mode, and then first one is summative evaluation, and then you can accumulate all things and evaluate the end, like student grade. You can the midterm, final, quiz, and all put together, and then this is the evaluation of this student in this class, like this. And so evaluation occurs at some identifiable end point of the project program course, the end of. So final grade. The midterm is part of the evaluation and the quiz is part of evaluation, but how you did in this class is a final. That's the summative evaluation we said, final grade. And it's really, here's a specific examples and comprehensive final exams and course grade and annual performance and merit review and all the time, this kind is summative evaluation. So, summative evaluation is conducted with the intent of making summary judgment about overall work of educational endeavors and activities and programs, right? That's the intention. So that's a summative evaluation, and usually schools and you gotta evaluate teachers and you gotta evaluate students, right? The end of the give out the final grade. That's a summative. There is formative education evaluation. What is a formative? And just think about, and there's a midterm, and then quizzes during every chapter you're gonna take a quiz, and then in the middle of the once we pass when we pass half of the class, and then there's midterm. There is a formative evaluation. So formative evaluation occurs while process or product are being designed or process are ongoing, meaning that this class is we already going to 8th week. We already first week, second week, third week, and maybe I didn't give you the quizzes, and I didn't give you midterms, and still, okay, let's take a test. How much they learn? Let me think about, and then I can get a feedback with the test score, and then how can I help them to get a better grade, and then we gotta little bit adjust and to student for student have a good grade, right? There's a who can fix it like this, but this is on the way during the courses, right? And so this one is really foster improvement. I told you, I see the midterm result, and then a lot of people are failing, but how can I help them to pass the class? Maybe give them extra assignment and give them more work, and then a lot of different way, right, to pass the class like this. So really can give the one improvement. So this is really desirable when implemented new program and instructional delivery system. That's true. Really highly desirable. When you start a new program, so we don't know how it's gonna be outcome. So every month, and this is new class and new system, and then first month, we can see how going on. Second month and third month, and try to correct if fix it if it's not effective. So they say formative evaluation is useful in conjunction with the programs and the staff development. How can, especially when you work with the teachers, and how can you develop them? Okay, this semester we're gonna help them in this way, and then maybe, let's do it, and then just throw the agenda, and we don't have any evaluation at the end of the semester, and then how can you evaluate? Well, you don't know, right? That's why aimed at the staff development and organizational change. So we gotta keep evaluate to improve and to better. That's why formative evaluation is important. So yeah, on the other side, maybe if you take formative information for teachers and then always take a first month and second month and then you can see how students do it and maybe you can get a feedback and then eventually nurture effective teaching. How can you teach student and develop the teaching skills and kind of an educational test. How can we measure the student knowledge, right? And sometimes keep changing like SAT here for the college and then in the beginning to really rely on how they process the information logically and imply implications they figured out and then but later on they adopted like there's two kind of tests here for college and SAT and ACT and then ACT is a little bit different from SAT and then later on SAT kind of adopted ACT styles testing, right? But nowadays because of the pandemic and then without any SAT scores and then they couldn't apply for college, but maybe 3 years ago never thought about it, right? Another evaluation is there, ex post factor evaluation. That one is I never heard the kind of a word, but I just learned from this. I don't know whether you guys had a longitudinal study research. Longitudinal research means that you gotta. That is I know the terminology because of my class, and then when you usually research, and then it's not just a survey. It's not using the questionnaire. And it's not just kind of interviewing, but there is kind of a 5-year, 10-year terms, long term is there. And then in the beginning, depends on your study, and they finish this one, and then you're gonna interview, and then you're gonna know how it affect this one their life in 5 years, 10 years later, and then you're gonna go back 10 years later to the same people, and then try to research it again, and then we can know how this one impact on that one, right? There's a longitudinal study. The ex post factor evaluation is the studies event data in longitudinal manner to determine the factors that contribute to educational success or failure, right? We gotta use this system, and then it's what kind of factors influence on them, and then it's successful or not, and then there is an ex post evaluation in the longitudinal manner, right? It's a long term. So usually this evaluation done to obtain formation or review assessment needed for the educational planning. Just try to find the factors and then, okay, how can we plan? Right? Maybe after 5 years, every 5 years you evaluate this, and then how can you plan next, like this? And to know the outcomes, trend, and problem factors or the contributing factors, right? And then what can we added, what can we remove because of the study. There's three evaluation used in educational evaluation. And what does the administrator evaluate? What is the evaluation target? which area should we evaluate in education? Just think about it. Maybe learning. I mean, about that's the learning in the how students perform in their studies. Here is the measurement, assessment, and inquiry regarding student learning gains, learning rate, and their performance. Use that one and then try to measure. Evaluate. What's the instruction? Maybe teachers, how they do. And measurement and assessment was appraisal of the instructional quality. So how teachers teach, and to really relate to the outcome of performance of a student. The instruction is effective, right, and helpful was still right. What about the courses and learning and instructions and then course? Evaluation of course design and content of instructional support and testing and or remediation system. That's we gotta evaluate the course. Maybe the evaluation of this course and math and English, right? And school provides special program. How can we evaluate them? So evaluation from the program curriculum or course combination and evaluation of institutional fit and social impact and cost benefit. Just think about the area. Can we extend the program or not? We gotta evaluate this one and cost too. And what about institutions or wide education system? The evaluation of the multi-program or multi-site education system, including institutional sectorial evaluation of nationals, right? And that's the area of the evaluation, learning, instruction, teaching, and courses and programs, special programs or related course, and and schools, and national, what's the national wise, and what's the government, the board, education board evaluate the school, each schools, and I said then for elementary school there's a blue ribbon schools. It's like test scores are good and then pretty. If the school named blue ribbon schools, it's really high criteria, high quality of education the school provides. Like this, and then every year they evaluate. So how can we process to evaluate education? What is the process of the educational evaluation? And we already see something how they do in definition, kind of basic trend of educational evaluation. Here is a whole process, and then basically, first of all, we got to set the problem. What is the problem? Right? And determine the situation to evaluate the object or people involved in the situation of interest or the purpose. We gotta set the problem. It's not problematic issues that we gotta deal with and solve, but still, I mean that what's the questioning about it? Even though they are doing really well, why? And then you gotta try to understand. That's a problem setting. It's not a problematic and then make big issues and conflict. Not like that. The setting, that's a really important thing. And then you gotta specify the problems. And a lot of people have a hard time to narrow down the questions. If the problem is too general, it's hard to measure. That's why sometimes, when I research and then research and then we gotta really narrow down to the questions, problems. For some people, it's never. I never had experience in research in Korea, and then even though I turned into my thesis, but it was different. But here, when I did research and in college year, it's not that much struggling because I read and I already talked to my advisor and nobody never done that. And nowadays, a lot of people are assigned to my work, and I have a co-author who I wrote the paper, but it's not a native language, and then who joined my research and she wrote my paper. And again, so. And I published, the paper was published, and then a lot of people kind of citing, and then even though it's almost 10 years ago, right? It's 10 years ago. I finished my college in 2003, maybe that one is published a little 1-2 years later, and then but still a lot of people are citing because it gives a lot of kind of idea and intent, insight, I think. It's really comprehensive research though. But it's easy, but what I'm talking about is they never done that with put together coping skills and stress coping skills and acculturations. They are immigrant and move here, and then they gotta learn the new cultures and then how your personality work together, And we gotta narrow down and specify the questions, and then determine the relevant element for examination in the evaluation problem, and selecting the appropriate evaluation made, and method of inquiries. What kind of methodology are you going to use it? Or quantitative and qualitative, or mixed. And selecting the participant, who's going to participate in this evaluation, student or teacher or parent, like this. Depends on your questions. And then identify key data sources. Where we can find this data at school or church or communities, and which area, and informant and like this, and you gotta specify all the what we need: methodology, sampling, and participant, and nowadays it kind of research area. You cannot say that in America, no. Maybe in America, you can do the broad, but still you gotta narrow down to the area, like ABC district, like this. And then that's why when I research, it's not a research and I narrow down. I cannot say Korean Americans. Korean American is over the United States, right? But in LA area is most population. So, and I wrote use the language of greater LA area, Los Angeles area, I mean people who live in Los Angeles area, not live in San Jose, Northern California, not live in New York. So I kind of narrowed down to my research around this area, not San Jose, not San Diego, because their context may be different from here, right? That's why. That is a really important thing. And then you gotta collect the data and analyze. And if you use a quantitative, and they check the answer survey, and there is scales there, and then you will put everything on the computer and then click it. That's collecting data. You go back to people. Can you send the package to email or the mail or email? You can get to collect data and analyze. Maybe if you use a qualitative, and you gotta go to Korea, you gotta go and kind of interview people and record the interview and then listen to them and how they say, and then analyze and try to coding and have subcategories and categories. What is the factors like who can do it? I did one. For my colleges, I used quantitative, and for my doctorate, and then I did qualitative. So I interviewed 24 people, right? 22 people. And you analyze data, and then you can get some findings there. Oh, this is really insightful. And then you can kind of talk to your finding, and then recommendation. Turn to the school district, or turn to national board. It depends on the what you did. And then based on their own actions coming out, and because made a decision based on the finding recommendation. After that, an assessment and evaluation that relate to the initial purpose and the process used and the expected result. That's the whole package usually we do. So evaluation is not just sitting down and write down something. So that's why what's our textbook systematic, collecting data and analyze systematic way. So usually nowadays, and usually take it that way. And sometimes if you wanna evaluate a program in school, one school maybe it's easier. But if you plan a lot of program like a core class in America, and then you gotta study about how you get the children's education. So maybe my district is different from other district, right? And then you gotta setting the maybe compare with the other district, like A district and then another district, and then think of and you can use get the data from parents, get the data from students and schools, and then same and compare, and then you can know another findings there. That's another research evaluation method we're going to talk about it. But still, like we can use one thing and we can compare with the others, right? That is the basic process that we are using for the evaluation. There is evaluation types, models, and our book suggests the 5 models, and then here is and what is one model, the method, and then who really proponent. And first of all, it was a goal attainment model. What is a goal attainment model? And these kind of evaluate what the degree to which the predetermined goals are reached is the sole criteria of evaluation. So just think about predetermined goals is there and kind of the degree reaches to what? Reaches and to the sole criteria of evaluation and how this goal is effective, the criteria of evaluation and really focus on the goal, right? Goal, the method is really goal zones and the goal screens and think about the basic purpose and goal. And then there's models and method and the screens there and the 5-step models and 8-step models and I am not going to talk about detailed stuff but the basic model is really goal attained model and evaluate the goal, right? Another model is the judgmental models. Judgmental model is that major attention is given to the evaluated professional judgment. It's not collecting the data in what? Professionals' judgment, maybe qualitative research. And that means that you gotta interview and then you gotta all the data analyze with the coding and then you gotta what they said and then make a code and then put together and then and make a judgment on the professional researcher like me. And the educator will concentrate on input and output of the system being evaluated and determine the values. So really what is there is a 5 kind of a method and accreditation models and comparative evaluation and countenance model and payoff evaluation and goal-free evaluation. So usually goal-free evaluation is like we already talk about we try to get the insightful description and get what's reality of education. So right, and that is the judgmental models. He called judgmental models, and then there's a different method they can use it. What about another model is a decision facilitation models. This evaluation is viewed as about the recollection of data to service decision markers. So this model ended up obtaining relevant information and then just to think about how you remember and how you experience, right? And then so that's what they said, what they remember and what decision markers, right? To use the factors to make decision markers. And there is a CIPP models and evaluator as teachers and discrepancy model, and then they different method and then but that is try to understand what they remember, right? And what about the naturalistic model? Is the main instrument for the data collection is the human being. That's a naturalistic model like me. I did research with the human being. Why? It's not the experience that already done with others. And then this model is a constraint imposed on the evaluation situation, and evaluation activities are held to the minimum. So we got to protect the participant subject, and then that's why try to really care for them. There's a lot of condition and consent form, and then we got to deal with them. So it's really strict because we got to protect them. So here is method is a human instrument, the responsive evaluation, and connoisseurship mode, and ethnographic evaluation. And ethnographic evaluation is that you gotta go into the people's life and try to observe and interview and see, understand their life, values, stuff. The last evaluation, self-evaluation models. So main source of data is a collection and analysis of the subject being evaluated. They do by themselves. How do you think about yourself? And mark like this, right? And like a personality test. And here is some method, LEA schemes and curriculum reviews, and then school initiated or teacher initiated evaluation and grades and GRIDS. So I just want, I want to just introduce the basic kind of models for educations, right? They use a different kind of models out there, and we'll consider a little bit different way. And yeah. We can talk about teachers' evaluation. How can we evaluate teachers? And before that, what is the purpose of the teachers' evaluation? To lay off and to help them to improve, right? And the purpose of the teachers' evaluation is the individual improvement and school improvement and individual accountability and organizational accountability. That is the purpose. It's a personal level, but it's an organizational level. And individual level, right? And individual improvement and school improvement. Individual accountability and organizational. That's why we evaluate teachers. There is two methods, right? Quantitative or qualitative, and two methods out there, and then maybe I already told you quantitative is the numbers and give out the questionnaires, and people kind of mark the answers, and then you gotta put the numbers and then analyze, and then nowadays use a program and then interpret, right? And then, but qualitative, you gotta go and interview and analyze, and you gotta see. So it's a method, and either one is a teacher's interview. That's a qualitative, and maybe you can interview teachers, and you can provide the competence test. It's like the national teachers examination already set by the government, and then it was competence test and teachers' skill and motivation test. The National Board for Professional Teaching Standard, that is already set. And what about indirect measures? You can observe. You can go to classroom and see how they teach. That's observation, right? And classroom observation. Usually how they engage with the student. What about how they deal with the lessons, and how they interact with others, and like this. And And indirect measures maybe you can observation, you can get information from co-workers and from others, right? If you evaluate teachers. What about and how like a student rating the teacher, how she's good and she's not good, and what about peers? I already told you. And then what about student achievement? We cannot attribute the student achievement to teachers, but still, who is the main role to help the student? Teachers, all right? And it's not a teacher's fault, but still give them influence. That's why part of way that to evaluate teachers, right? And what about, there is a socio-economic influence there, but still we gotta see part and maybe the teachers' self-evaluations. There's a lot of different ways that evaluate teachers. So what kind of, depends on how you conduct the evaluation, and then that one is mostly like a quantitative, and then interviews, and then observations, and then rating maybe you can interview, and then you can give them questionnaire, either one, and this one too. So you can use maybe mixed, or you can use both, and you can use quantitative or qualitative. And so here is the common purpose of the teacher's evaluation is what? To facilitate the employment or the promotion decision, and what to communicate performance to specialists to practice instructors. And then eventually we evaluate the purposes like really formal, and but actually how can we help the teachers, right? Facilitate employment and promote decision. Okay, when you promote, and how can we do that? What is the basis? It's like organization, right? They see their outcome of the work. And to communicate performance to specialists, appraisal to practicing instructor. That's the one of you can use it. Maybe if you work at school, that's a little mixed with the organization, but still, maybe if you work an organization, there's a hierarchy of positions, right? There is evaluation models, and then there's a planning model and quantitative model, and another model is that, and planning model is the what? Here is, and then planning model in Knezovich's system evaluation models. There is a very formative in nature and addresses personal and organization improvement, and includes what? Four-phase determination of the purpose and effectiveness of the system, and development of the monitoring procedure, and data collect, and decision-making action. That is the planning models, how they plan, and evaluate. And so another one is that he acknowledged the planning model, and then tried to kind of try to really add more and better models, and then still planning model is here, and then specifies number of teachers' behavior. That one is usually think about the formative nature and address personnel and organization improvement. And there's a kind of evaluation models, but they don't have like a teacher's behavior, right? So Coleman, he added a little bit different area to evaluate the teachers, and then like a teacher's behavior, warmth and indirectness and cognitive organization and enthusiasm like this, and then try to evaluate the teacher's behaviors. So, but he assessed kind of this data is a formative and summative data. Do you know summative, the end of and formative on the process? And eventually, he said that what's the planning, his model is that behavior may be relative and situational. That's why sometimes this is not all about. It's hard to get a correct evaluation or proper evaluation, I mean the proper evaluation. So there is a planning model is here to evaluate, and another model is quantitative models. We call them Klein and Atkins model and Dyer's model. And Klein and Atkins use an objective-based approach to include, exclude all subjective judgment of teacher, and then how can you do that? That's why we do the quantitative. I know kind of answer is limited, and then sometimes a lot of factors are there, but that's why they set the problem only one thing. Not all over the inside, not all over the area, but just really narrow down. So try to really get the objective evaluations. So this style used quantitative, the Klein-Atkins model used regressive analysis to measure the performance of one teacher's pupil against those who teachers are being appraised. And this one is aggressive regression analysis, means that there is kind of research method. It's really from the statistical method, and then try to examine the relationship between one or more variable of interest. It's not just one variable. There is just think about variable in mean that how influence, the factors that influence teachers, how can they perform better? Maybe one independent variable and maybe teacher's instruction, and vice versa. After that, and vice versa, assignment, homework. What about parents' involvement? What about outside the extra curriculum? They try to use the kind of different variable, and then and I already put the 4 variables, and then try to explain the relationship between. That is maybe extracurricular influence of performance, right? How? And then it's related or not? And what about parent support? What about teachers? Teaching styles. What about what's extra? Homeworks like this, and then that's a regression analysis, and then try to figure it out. That's why the measure the performance of the one teacher's pupils against those who all teachers being appraised. So this teacher student and compare with the other students, right? And to weight only those variables under the teacher's control and adjust the variable considered and contaminating influence such as like this. And this is control group and non-control group is here. Two groups here, and then maybe fix this on control group and other, and then try to see the relation. That is the Klein's Aikens model, and there's a really want to be objective evaluation. And then Dyer's model is a quantitative in nature. I mean, we gotta use surveys and using some questionnaires and above. He used 4 groups of variables. One is the input variable of a student and output of a student and educational process variable and the surrounding conditions. You use the 4 variables. And then this is possible, this purpose outcome measures, and then those variables beyond the teacher's control, and try to measure possible those variables beyond the teacher's control, right? And focus on what? Teacher behavior that is easy to change. That is kind of a Dyer's model, because you can see the surrounding condition is hard to control by teachers, right? And that is 2 models are really based on the quantitative model they use. Another model is managed mutual benefit evaluation model and reservoir management by object evaluation model. They are similar, and then what our textbook described as one. This model is characterized by centralized teaching standard and criteria. So teaching standard and criteria, right? And goal setting and the teacher's involvement in evaluation process. This is, we are talking about teachers evaluation, right? And then before I give you 5 models, and that's the educational evaluation based kind of models, and these are the teachers evaluation models. This is third one, right? Don't confuse it. And that is the basic characteristic, and address this model addresses teacher improvement by promoting professional growth and by integrating individual performance objectives with the school policies. That is a little bit side of what's related to the evaluations, and what else, and then but sometimes really this model is just strived with confidence, because the outcome, there's a confidence evaluation philosophy and outcome-based evaluation philosophies, and that's why. And the evaluation is really result-oriented, and then even though, not this one, and then there is no any formative evaluation, right? But it's really result-oriented, but they accommodate the numerous perspective of result. But still, there is. Can you see that different aspect of the teacher's evaluation? That one is also really teachers, about teachers, how they teach, right? And the teaching standard and criteria and setting goal and then teachers involvement and then we see that the teachers improvement quality and but still the straddle with the competence-based evaluation philosophy and outcome-based philosophies. So really outcome, result-oriented evaluation. So Swanson and Razik introduced three basic models of teachers' evaluations. And then go to the evaluating administrator. Yeah, they have evaluation too, right? Administrator. Why we have to evaluate administrator? So I don't know if you remember last week and we talked about authority, teachers based authorities and what administrators, based authorities. So there's two authorities at schools basically, and we already talk about the teachers' evaluations, and then right now we are talking about the administrators' evaluation. How can we evaluate the principals and vice principals and other leaders in districts? And why do we need to do it? There is a reason is there. Establish a training institutional goal. We try to attain and establish our school's goal. So, and helping individual administrator improve their performance, right? That's why we needed to do. And another, to make a decision on retention and salary and promotion. And think about, can we keep this administrator this year? Maybe district decided, board members decided, and we gotta keep this one, or they need to transfer to others. Maybe other schools fit with him, maybe they need this principal administrator. Like this, they decide. And what about the salary? And promotion. And another reason is to increase the effectiveness and efficiency of the administration as a team. That's of course. How can we work together as a team effectively, right? To keep inventory of personnel resources for assigning or retaining, reassigning, I already told you. So we need to get all information about him, and maybe he may fit into another school, and we gotta reassign, like a district board to decide. And why my kids was in elementary school and the one principal, but later on, district decided transfer this principal to other school, neighbor schools, and like this. And she came from other area, like this. Another, the next successor. And that's why they need to evaluate and to inform governing body of a degree of congruence between institutional policy and institutional actions. Okay, we gotta know how he's doing. There's our policy, and then how he's doing, and how we are doing. That's kind of evaluating. And what about the sharing governance? And what about the informed internal and external audience of administrative effectiveness works? Let's think about how we are doing in internal and how you present to the outside community. what about conduct research to conduct research on factors related to administrative effectiveness. Try to understand which ways contribute to kind of operate the school effectively. So there's a lot of reasons to evaluate administrators. Maybe more than that, right? And what about the basic principle when you conduct evaluate administrators? So when you conduct evaluation, and then it's a kind of related to the research, and evaluation is totally different. But when we to research is it's all the same. And then first of all, when you conduct the evaluation, it's a credibility principle is there. What does credibility mean? That the confidence that the process is appropriate. Just the whole process is process is a proper way, and so the credibility is developed with the input from all parties affected, and so maybe the credibility is gives a clear understanding that the evaluation has a potential for producing positive result. And credibility means another word is reliability, and then can we to process the same thing and could get the same outcome. It's a process is really important. That's why developed with input from all parties affected. So this one is kind of educate the principle. Maybe they use a different research methodology and use the evaluation for principle. That's why a little bit different, and then developed with the input from the all parties affected, right? That's a credibility principle. What about mean that this validity is that is based on the comprehensive and accurate measure. And then if you have a discretion, and then validity shows that measure exactly what they are asking, what they want to measure. That's the validity. So evaluation should measure the meaningful change in person that resulted from the administration effort. So sampling, how can you and should represent as wide variety of source as is possible. So to show the validity. So basically, remember that credibility is that they should, if you repeat the same process, and then you couldn't get the same outcome. Like procedures really focus on them, but validity is that there is what we want to really measure and evaluate, and is that they are hitting the question right to evaluate right. And that is a thing. What about the fairness? Think about when you research, and then it should be fair, right? Even though it's voluntary, maybe administrative evaluation is not voluntary, they have to do mandatory, but say we have to protect him, right? And then sometimes, and after maybe we evaluate people, and then after that, and then we gotta talk, we gotta listen, right? Maybe self-evaluation and was context may be different, but not reflected on research and on evaluation. So you gotta consider and you gotta do it. Fairness. So models is a rating scales. Okay, there is a personalities and then maybe rating 3, 5, 7, 10 depends on how thorough you wanna evaluate. If the rating scale is 10, usually use a lot of in academic setting, and then more consider detail though. How many people are satisfied? How much it do? But if the rating scale is like 3 and 4, just think about when you mark and 3, 4 is and then I wanna give a C, but there is no C range. And I will mark a 4. And out of 5, out of 4, and then automatically goes to C plus and 80%, right? And 75% and 80% is kind of it's pretty high. That's why our church tried to use the rating scales and like a 4-point rating scale. And when we use a 4-point rating scale, and everybody happy with the church. But I suggest that it's not give it doesn't give us kind of more detailed opinions, and can we raise about to 7 or 10? They said 10 is too big, and then let's raise it 7. And then we can see clearly how many people are satisfied with this part and that, and what are you doing, right? Which one is A minus level or A level? We can see clearly which one is the C level. More clear. The rating scale. So there is questionnaires and forms and scales. Usually, rating means that we can use both and closed, and then there is no comment on that. And sometimes you can use a comment, more explanation, others, and then you can write down, right? And there is there, and allows user to classify information from various sources and rapidly and efficiently. So we can sort easily, right? That's why we use the rating scale. But if you use the qualitative, like the judgment, education model depends on judgmental depends on the professional judgment, like a qualitative, and then which really takes a lot of time. We gotta go and interview and record and analyze sentence by sentence, relate to find some factors. Another evaluation model is about growth contracting, and growth contracting is allows evaluating maybe administrator is evaluating and evaluator is maybe district, and to think through and write about goals and objectives for the future. That's a growth contracting, and then maybe when you interview and then coming to and then maybe just a hire, and then people you communicate what we're thinking about and all things, and then just write down and think about, sitting down and thoroughly think about and what is the goals and objects for the future in this goal like this. And that's a growth contracting. And consider the acceptable means of demonstrating professional competence, right? And that is usually one of the advantages is that there is a four element. There is a self-evaluations and area of improvement and plans for the improvement one, and then long-range goals, and maybe they are, evaluate and then think about all things, and then through the evaluation process, and then they can know that, so what he's thinking about his goals and what objectives in the school. There is a four elements, right? So self-evaluation is related to statement of past performance or perception of the strengths or weakness last year, and relative to school's performance, like a standard test, like result of a standard test score, and all things, and then area of improvement, and then select those area difficulty, and discuss it in the self-evaluation, and plans for improvement, how maybe you can do differently, like this. That is a growth contracting evaluation. Probably it's really effective and how he is doing, and what he has done before, right? And there is ad hoc committees, and mean that there is screening committees and was a representative of a constituency served by the administrator, maybe districts and maybe board, and then there is screening committees there, and then that is you should provide confidentiality and dignity, which is really important. And so, and understand that criticism as well as a recognition is inherent of evaluation, and open disclosure of evaluation process and criteria. So this one is really you gotta see that one. It should really be that's by the committee, and understanding of the complexity of the valid evaluation. So mean that sometimes we gotta understand how much this one is, right? And validation and the understanding of the specifics of the time and place and expectation at the time of appointment, and the issues at the time administrator was hired as the impinging on the administrative work and evaluation. So we gotta screen all things, right? And but committee is formed by they are the representative constituents of served as administrative, maybe district board, and maybe, and then they see how he is doing. But we gotta know that this one is very important. Confidentiality and dignity. Another kind of because he is a leader, right? And then he got to learn and operate and manage, and that is what is management by objectives. This is kind of systems, planning, and management process that include evaluation as a component. So that is always already include evaluation is there, and then start with the process step of the goal clarification, and then establishment of the measurable objectives. It's really important, and then we don't. It's too abstract, and you don't know what I want to evaluate, and we don't know. That's why the establishment of measurable objectives is really important. And you need an individual self-analysis, kind of reflect self-analysis, and then action plan, and then implementation. So whole this kind of systematic process, and evaluation and feedback, and review the planning and implementation and complete the system. It's not just to evaluate and done, right? We gotta do this feedback and review the planning and implementation, so very important. That one is management by the objectives, and another evaluation. Pretty systematic though. And here is some there is some component that there's a full I copy and pictured in from the book, and there is full kind of evaluation. Is experimental, and then quasi-experimental. It's a quasi-experimental mean that it's not real setting, experiment, right? That's an experiment and a real experiment, and then you kind of make a setting and the ethnography, and you're gonna go into and watch, and then benefit cost analysis. There's a full kind of methodology for evaluation. So I want you to know there is others evaluation way there, and we can there is I caught the book, and this philosophy and disciplinary focus methodology, and variable, and like this. And then I hope that you can see, maybe you can see the book, and there's a book from the textbook, and Swanson and Tezik, and then maybe the Razik, and then you couldn't see that book, and then see the evaluation part, and then you can see that one. Another one is a copy that is there's a taxonomy, program evaluation is there, and how you evaluate the program, and then there is systemic analysis, and behavioral object analysis, decision making, and goal free, and art criticism, criticization, and adversary, and transaction. There is a model is there. How can we evaluate the program? And then here is kind of methodology, and what is the outcome. So, and then there is typical questions there in the books. Around the page is I think that there is no, but I put my note, but it's a textbook, and then we can set this chart on the evaluation chart, the sections. There is the program evaluation model. So don't confuse that there's a lot of evaluations, and this is a principal evaluation, and teachers evaluation, and program evaluations. Different models there. So when we conduct the evaluation, so what is the standard? What is the requirement? So we gotta really be careful. It's not for judge others. It's not just for evaluate others' abilities, but we gotta really know that there's a utility standard and then to guide the evaluation process so that it will be timely, informative, and influential and address need of the audience to be served by the process. That's the utility standard, right? And really guiding the evaluation process. You're gonna know that. It's really important, and there is no any prejudice and stereotype, and there is no any. Try to minimize distractions. And feasibility standard is to ensure that program evaluation are realistic and prudent, diplomatic, and then cost effective. Whatever you use, whatever you do, right? So for evaluation, the feasibility. And another standard is appropriate. What is appropriate standard? And ensure that the evaluation will be conducted legally, ethically, with regard to the welfare of those involved in evaluation. That is really important too. So, and that's why when you evaluate or research, and you're gonna get the consent form. Maybe you wanna, and then they sign legally. And before you conduct, and there's a lot of process to protect those involved in evaluation. Appropriate standard is really important. Yeah, getting so when you evaluate and we gotta there is more nowadays. There is more screens and because of legal issues. But that's why we gotta really know that one. And accuracy standard. And accuracy standard in whether evaluations provide sound information that determine the merit of a program being evaluated. Whether its outcome is good or not, but we gotta know that sound information. We gotta the program is really successful, and once the teachers are not really successful, why? We gotta get the collecting sound information, and then if they are not successful, why? It's not just criticizing and judging others, right? My sound information is not all the time and successful. So we want to make accurate standard, accurate, and we gotta do context analysis. We gotta know the context is really important. Even though they work at school and school district is different. Sometimes, even though same district and then and same area, how many schools are there? I mean, elementary school, primaries. Maybe 6 to 8 is, in my district, it's 6 to 8 schools is there. 8 schools is there. 8 schools. Elementary is there. Then just think about, and my district is really competitive. Parents really interested in education, invest a lot on their kids. But another district is like a little bit, there's already different population. So what is the standard school is low, much lower than this area, my area, like this. That's why when we evaluate and teachers and people, as administrator or teachers, and then students, and then programs, we gotta understand the context. And here is a detailed monitoring and description. Really detailed, not just information and defensive information sources, and why you things, why you that, and then just how can support your evaluation. You're gonna need that one as kind of your backup information, and that one is the information gathering procedure. So you gotta, how can you get the information? You gotta just people around you are just have a diverse background and area, and just how you evaluate, how you get to the people, what kind of process you did. That's you gotta do a lot of work. That's all. And if you don't, it's not feasible. It's not sounds good. You gotta write and over, and that's how you gotta. Actually, you gotta do the process. And when you get the information, how can you keep it? How can you get the quality of the information? So it's a really hectic process. When I was doing the research, anyway, information gathering, analyzing quantitative or qualitative information, it's really important. You gotta show it, right? That is one of the criteria of the training, and then criteria to keep the validity and reliability. And there's a impartial reporting. You gotta be based on your research result and evaluation, and then what? Meta evaluation, formative summative evaluation. Also, meta evaluations, there's a lot of research, and then you can try to compare and then to see the relations, right? Try to have and how different, how similarities there, and also differences there, and then you can compare, collect different collect maybe same study about different area and similar, and then you gotta get collect the studies and compare and then see similarity and differences. That's meta evaluations. That gives you a kind of way that kind of your accuracy of a standard. So evaluation is not easy way, but still it's really important. So I introduced a lot of models and then basic procedures and standards for evaluation, and then just know that maybe you can use this one is in your workplace, and then maybe if you go to church and church setting, but a little bit different, but maybe you can a little bit twist it and change it, and you can use it, but still in the education field, and then I can see that I researched a lot, but the evaluation is kind of similar to my research process. And my research process, I read a lot of papers and psychological articles and journals, and then usually, there's adopt the kind of process to evaluate, and then they make their own and use in education evaluation, and then that's why it's similarities there. And then maybe if you expose to the research and then other science, social science studies, and maybe it's really similar, right? But I want to know that at least so school administrators, right? They need to know, evaluate the schools, right? They need to know what kind of methodology out there and how you can do it. That's a kind of part of the purpose of the class, this class. All right, so I hope that you guys get insight for the evaluation. So maybe you can, you already exposed how can you evaluate in educational setting. So I hope that it's helpful, especially who are interested in become a school administrator. Maybe you're gonna know this is kind of stuff. Maybe later on, maybe study more. Maybe any question you have, just let me know, and then we can talk about more. Maybe personally, maybe by email. So I hope that you guys have.